Hey guys, welcome back to another Patrons Ask GN. If it looks like the same exact setup as the last one we filmed, probably went up a week ago, and you think that we filmed these on the same day, let's move on to the first question. The first question is from Streetguru, a regular who's been around a long time. Thanks, Streetguru, for sticking around. Asks, did you guys ever pick up one of the mining motherboards with like 15 plus PCIe connections? Would it be possible to do Blender rendering tests with it with a lot of high-end GPUs, maybe a bunch from different generations vendors for the lulz? We didn't pick one up. We do have boards that have a lot of PCIe connections, but not 15. I know which ones you're talking about, though. I'm also not sure that Blender might use enough PCIe bandwidth where it could be non-beneficial to go down to buy one slots for PCIe would kind of be my guess. So I don't think it would be better. We're kind of playing around with the idea of building a mini, like a, not really mini, it'd be massive, building a gigantic render box. We're not sure what to do with our dual socket system, and we kind of want to do something with the Case Labs case. So there's a possibility that we do a 4-card render machine at some point in the future, but it wouldn't be 15 cards. Your idea is interesting. I don't know. I'd have to look into if the bandwidth matters for Blender, and if it does, then we could maybe do that just for fun. If it doesn't, I don't think I'd bother, because then the conclusion is pretty lame. It's just like, well, don't bother doing this. Next one, Nory, regular, says, do you have enough LN2 for next week's CPU releases? I don't think, maybe. We probably have enough for one. We can maybe do one LN2 live stream, but I'm not really sure how effectively I can LN2 overclock Threadripper. We could give it a shot for fun. It's just, I have a feeling it's going to be pretty limited because there's so much thermal density with how many cores there are, and I don't know that I really have an LN2 pot that'll fit it. So we could try. I want to, but we're also focusing on all the other like Black Friday content, so it might not make it, might get cut for that stuff. But we should have enough, yes. ST33Med, another long-time Patreon backer, is Google Stadia with a Chromecast Ultra going to be in the disappointment build? It will probably be the lead actor in the disappointment build, most likely. Streetguru again. Any reason Noctua doesn't use vapor chambers over heat pipes? I think only recently the Coolermaster Cooler had a vapor chamber. What if you stacked more heat pipes on top of the vapor chamber? It helps, but there's diminishing returns versus the cost. And vapor chambers cost a lot more to make. We have some footage we've shown before from the Coolermaster factory that we shot in March earlier this year, where they didn't let us film most of the vapor chamber construction. A lot of it's NDA, but they allowed us to make, in giant air quotes there, our own vapor chamber by, they give us like the bits and pieces of it and basically a spoon, and you scoop copper cylinders and dump it onto the inside of the chamber, and then you close the chamber. And so that whole process involves a lot of actual labor from a person. It's not as automated, and that means it's a lot more expensive to make. So that's why you don't see it on more coolers. And I think Noctua would probably, knowing them, argue that it's not as efficient as doing heat pipes in terms of cost to execute something well and the end payoff. So I think that's the answer to that one. Let's do another. We have jjShibbycray says, is 1.4 volts okay for a daily driver on an 8086K, Delidded, no temps exceeded 55C anywhere, and hardware info across the entire system, motherboard temperatures, etc. when gaming, except the GPU. Let me answer that question separately. So, is 1.4 volts okay for daily driver 8086K? Yes, that's okay. Now you're delidded with liquid metal, I think, with liquid metal. So the only time you really need to worry about voltage, most of the time, for voltage to become deadly to a CPU, you're already going to be shutting down from TJ Maxx anyway. So you have a natural safety net there where if you type in too high of a number and the board actually puts it through, you'll kill the chip before TJ Maxx can execute. But we're talking like you type in 1.55 by accident, 1.6 by accident. But if you type in, let's say 1.45, you'll probably overheat there, maybe 1.47. And once you put that kind of number in, you're going to shut down from thermal before the voltage does any permanent damage. And hopefully that's a message to the user to say, hey, you should bring down the voltage because you can't operate within temperature spec. That becomes less true as you cool the CPU more effectively. So you start cooling it better and better. Liquid metal, chilled water, for example, it totally is possible to kill the CPU with high voltage. You have to be more careful about your I/O and your SA voltage on Intel and your SoC voltage on AMD. If those are too high, like let's say AMD's kind of nebulous right now, but 1.3 maybe, something like that for SoC, then you'll start degrading the quality of the IMC, the internal memory, integrated memory controller on the chip. And as you degrade the quality of the IMC, you'll slowly lose the ability to hold the same frequencies and timings on your memory as you could originally. So you actually won't know about that damage until a couple months down the line, which is the worst part. vCore, you don't have to worry too much about. If it's overheating, back it down. 1.4, you're fine. 55C is good. The next question from the same person was, when you were with Dell, were you at the Round Rock campus? If so, what did you do there? Seems like you mentioned testing engineering. How can I get into something similar? I was at the, what was it called? Palmer South campus. I think it was called PS3 was the building I was in. Dell has partitioned off those buildings and I think leased some of them out to other companies. I remember ASRock was looking at potentially moving into one of the labs in there. But I think I was at PS3 if I remember correctly. It was the newest of the Palmer South buildings. Really nice building, great place to work, good campus, good accessibility to stuff nearby, and not too close to actual Austin, so you didn't have to deal with traffic or anything. And I just lived across the street in the apartments and rode my bike into work. But what did I do there? I have mentioned test engineering is probably what you're remembering. So definitely not actual engineering, but test engineering is a way to describe a specific type of testing that makes the people doing it feel better about their jobs. So test engineering just means that you design some of the test cases. So I started as a test technician, and I think formally that was probably my job title the whole time. But after about 3 months, so I was a contractor, and after about 3 months, I moved into more of towards a subject matter expert role, SME. I became an SME for their security product, and did that for a little while, and then I did a lot of testing for things like biometric scanners on laptops, did testing for smart card readers on laptops. And both those, well, yeah, I'll leave that out. But so two security devices for notebooks and the software associated with them. And then also did some testing for DCP. I don't know if that software is still alive. It was a Dell software. But I worked in Biz Client. The Consumer Lab was next to us. It was broken into Consumer, Biz Client, and then Enterprise, basically. So Consumer Lab was kind of gearing down when I was there. Alienware was recently acquired. They were starting to build that brand up. And I more or less would get a cart full of laptops every day, like 5 to 10 of them. And I can't remember what I had to disassemble them for, but I had to do some disassembly. And then we designed test cases where it's line by line. What tests do you run on this device, and pass-fail for each step along the way, and then you rate it. You'd submit a bug report or defect and rate it from different severity levels, and the more severe it was, the more likely they were to delay a launch for it. And then the developers can push back and say working as designed, as often was the case. But so that's what I did. I got to test some cool projects. I think almost all of them shipped, but I'll have to double check before I talk about any of them. And there was some interesting stuff there, but yeah, I liked it a lot. As a contractor in Texas, at least, you can only work for so many months out of the year. It's like 9 or 10. They can extend you to 10. And at that point, you would be considered an employee. So what they do is they bring contractors in. These companies, all of them, would bring contractors in 9, 10 months. Then you have 3 months off, then you come back and do it again, or work somewhere else in the interim. AMD they worked with the same contract companies, also in Austin. So how do you get into something similar? The best way you can get paid pretty well as a contractor, sometimes more than as an employee, because you don't get any benefits or insurance, stuff like that. And you get into something similar by finding contract houses near you. So True Talent, I think, was the one I worked with. They were a little weird, but they gave the best rate to the contractor. So I liked them. And something, it's like Saphiron, I don't remember their name, but SAPH something was the biggest one that Dell worked with. So if you look them up and give them a skill set and a resume, what they do is they go to the companies for you and get you a job, and then they take a cut of your pay. So not the best, but the cut's not too much. I can't remember what mine was exactly or if it's under NDA, but on average, I'll say the people in the lab were like maybe a 90-10, worst case was like an 80-20 setup, something like that. And that's between you and the contract house. Dell doesn't typically even know what your cut is, from what I understand or remember. So yeah, that'll cap it for this one. Thanks for watching. If you have more questions about that stuff or whatever else is going on in the industry, let us know in the Patreon Discord. You can, if you don't know how to join that, go to Google and type in connect Patreon to Discord, and they have it's all automated through whatever APIs are set up, and you can join our Discord that way. We don't send out leaks manually, it'd take forever. So thanks for watching. Leave your questions in the Discord, and I'll see you all next time.